StarCast is proudly sponsored by DoghouseSystems.com. If you use the code StarCast or Biscuit at checkout, you will get double memory on your next Doghouse system. Once again, that's DoghouseSystems.com. Additional support comes from SC2QuoteOfTheDay.com. Daily quotes from the StarCraft 2 community. The site may suck, but the quotes are sick. And HotKeyit.com. Launched in 2011, HotKeyit is the leading StarCraft 2 video training site available. Spearheaded by such players as Benishiwa, Vibe, Desro, and Inca, HotKeyit is dedicated to providing a more cost-effective option to traditional one-on-one coaching with the aim of making you a better player. Go to hotkeyit.com. Coming up on the next episode, we'll be having Rain Axlov on episode 90. On episode 91, on February the 22nd, Greetorp will be joining us. And on February 29th, Molestrap will be joining us. Now sit tight and enjoy episode 89 of StarCast.
Yeah, it's about damn time for StarCast.
Incoming transmission.
Biscuit.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 89 of StarCast, the StarCraft Popcast. I am your host, Garrett Weinzerl. With me, as always, is Kyle Ferguson, and joining us for the first time, although you may have heard him on many, many other StarCraft podcasts, is Jeff InControl Robinson. How are you doing, Jeff?
Good, thanks for having me.
That's nice having you. Kyle, you as well? Did you have a good jog over to your house to make it in time?
I did. I made it quite successfully.
Wonderful. So, well, as promised, we were going to kick off today's episode with an interview of Jeff, and dear God, there were a lot of questions. So we apologize if some had to be cut, but we would be here for 3 days, Jeff, if we put in every question that everyone asked.
In fact, some are just abominations of questions that were so similar, I just kind of pasted them all together.
There you go.
Yeah.
Smart.
So let's kick it off. When and how did you come up with the name InControL?
Okay, so a long time ago in Brood War, there was a team called the N team, which was capital I, capital N, and then a word. And such players like Agent 911, QWERTY, QQQ, Incinerate, Pillars was in there for a while. There's just a lot of these old names, and a lot of these names I'm saying are just kind of going over people's heads. My dog feels very strongly about this too. Bears, hey. Sorry. So anyways, it was a top team. I was a young guy at the time, and I joined up with them, so I became InControL. And then when I left the team, out of respect to them and their tag, I lowercase the I and uppercase the L, just so that I keep the name, but I don't have the tag.
Gotcha. All right. That explains the uppercasing as well.
Yeah.
So esports in general, you just touched on it a little bit, but how did you get into it initially? What drew you to it? How did you discover it? And how did you get into StarCraft specifically?
I would say, well, okay, I'll answer the first one first. I was your typical guy, or child rather, kid at the time, because I started actually StarCraft when I was 12 years old, long time ago. And I would go outside, I would play in the woods, I'd ride bicycles, I liked to collect Todd McFarlane's Spawn action figures. That's why one of my aliases is actually Redeemer. It was my favorite model from his collection. Legos, all that stuff. Z-Bots, Micro Machines. This was my childhood. But my friends all had gaming systems, so like Super Nintendo, Nintendos, and even computers with some games on there, which were like Doom or Counter-Strike 1.6. And in this case, Warcraft 2. And Warcraft 2 really caught my eye more than any other game, just because I love strategy, I love brain activities, and I really feel like RTS as a genre really encompasses and brings that in. And it grabbed me. It absolutely grabbed me. So it became the part where, or it came to the point where I was one of those friends who would head over to people's houses, friends' houses, just to play their computer. And I mean, actually, this is like so unprofessional, but I want to tweet this for you guys.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm tweeting for you. Okay, yeah. So
How dare you tweet?
you can, yeah, I know you guys. I'm sorry, that's so bad. But and I was like, I could talk and think at the same. No, I can't. I actually would fall over if I chewed bubblegum and walked. But that was my childhood. And then StarCraft came out, and I remember reading GamePro magazine and seeing the early alpha renditions, and the Goliath looks so cool because at the time it was like a full-on mech from like the Mech Warrior series, and it just was all these pictures of like aliens coming through space, and there's like space stations with stacked defenses in place. A bunch of stuff that now, with our StarCraft eyes, we'd look at it and be like, well, that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. Why is he floating his command center towards a missile turret type of thing? It was silly, but it looked so cool. So I had to play it. Another huge grab was I saw an Ultralisk being advertised in the magazine before it came out. And at the time, I also collected Warhammer 40,000 models. And the Carnifex and the Ultralisk looked very, very similar at the time. So I was just like, wow, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So I had to play it. And one of my buddies, his dad actually worked for Blizzard. He had a copy at home, played it there. Pre-release, actually, so it was kind of cool. I actually like to boast that I'm the longest-standing player of StarCraft because I played it before it was even released and haven't stopped then. So yeah, that's what kind of grabbed me. And then your next question was about esports. And I like to say that esports kind of grabbed me, actually. The truth that we can never tell management of EG is that I would play this game for free. And I did for a long time. For many years, I spent a lot of time upstairs in the basement, downstairs in the or upstairs in the attic, downstairs in the basement, wherever the computer was, I was there playing this game. And that's where I don't know. It got into my blood. It was just something that I had to do. And eventually, it grew to the point where there's a community, there's competition, there's tournaments. You can travel, you can see the world, and it's just never let go of me, and obviously now I'm holding just as tight. So I don't really have much better of a description than it's my passion. So here I am.
That's awesome.
That's a wonderful description.
Yeah.
Now you said you started with RTS with Warcraft 2. Was there any other ones that you thought you might be professional at some point if they had the backing that StarCraft had?
That's a really good question. The simple answer is, like, if StarCraft didn't exist, I could tell you about other games I might play professionally. But with StarCraft existing, it is the best one, in my opinion. It's just always been the most balanced, the most interesting, and it's space age, so I've always loved aliens. But other games that I played were like Command & Conquer Gold. I really like that. And then I dabbled in some of the other ones, and they just didn't really grab me, like Age of Empires, that kind of stuff. Very different style of RTS, in my opinion. StarCraft was a blend between like physical speed, mental prowess, and just there's some luck in there, but a lot of strategy. And that blend of gameplay, just there's nothing better than it, in my opinion.
Yeah. So how about more recently? Do you have any interesting stories from a recent Disneyland trip?
Yeah, Disneyland's a really special place to Anna, and I've always known that. Her dad took her there when she was a little girl, and she's gone a few times on like just like soppy, stupid Hollywood story type thing. Like her dad's like, "How about we just go to Disneyland?" And they do, and it's like magical. So I wanted to ride on the coattails of that glory a little bit, but I wanted the proposal to be something special. I'm the kind of guy who would probably just take a chick out to dinner and wear a nice shirt type of thing. But she's not that kind of girl, so I had to up the ante a little bit. And some people are confused. I didn't actually propose on Space Mountain. I thought about doing it, but then I had visions of the multi-$1,000 ring flying out and then shitting myself right there.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. It's quite dark in there.
It is. Yeah. So I mean, they take a picture, and I didn't. I just didn't trust it. It would have been cool to talk about, but it probably would have got botched terribly. So what we did is I waited till the fireworks show was over, and I proposed her in front of the castle. And I had this big whole speech planned out. And there's actually a ring of people watching the fireworks, so we had a little bit of applause. But I got so nervous and anxious that I skipped the speech. I just was like, well, actually, what happened is we planned to trick her. We were going to be like, hey, let's take a picture in front of the castle. She's like, okay. And they're like, how about you two first? So we go over there, and it was supposed to be the part where I give a speech, but instead I just kind of dropped on the knee and go, will you marry me? She's like, sure. So it was cool.
That's awesome. I think a castle would trump a spaceship as far as places to pop the question anyway. Just saying.
Probably.
So, well, that's freaking awesome. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It's so neat that the nerd culture is so embraced. I mean, you've had tons of congratulations on Reddit and all other sorts of places. Probably even websites you don't even visit. And It's so interesting that the nerd culture just embraces, like, you find the girl that you want and you keep her, whereas so many other cultures are about, you got to sleep around, you got to be a man.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting mix of both. Like, first and foremost, the community's been tremendously supportive and loving, and that's really awesome. Sometimes I say stupid stuff or I give too strong of an opinion, and certainly the community is pretty quick to let me know about that as well. But in this case, it should be pretty universally accepted that this is a good thing. It's a happy time when people find each other and want to get married. And the StarCraft community has been right up there, just very, very kind, very loving that way. But it's funny you bring that point up, though, because it's interesting. Machoism, because we're in like a male-dominated community, right? Like every girl has to run through the cornfield gauntlet of
StarCraft, no way.
Yeah, I know, right? They get it pretty difficult, and that's because there's such a machoism between the keyboard warriors, and having the anonymous nature of talking on the internet, with a screen dividing you. So a lot of people feel a lot more tough, but in this case, they were really super awesome, and I appreciate it.
That's badass. So how does it feel? How does it feel to be engaged? Is one of the questions someone asked was, how will your engagement affect your involvement with the esports scene?
It's been surreal. I just always knew that I was going to marry Anna, so that wasn't really a question to me. But then having been engaged to her now for a couple weeks, it just occurred to me that I was like, oh crap, I still have to be a professional StarCraft player. So I pretty much made it clear to her. I'm like, hey, you've got your ideas of a dream wedding, and I hope you're okay with this, but it's pretty much all up to you. You got to plan it out, and she's been pretty cool about it. So as far as it affecting anything professionally, no, not really, not at all. I mean, there's going to come a month down the road, we're thinking November, where I'll have to take a couple weeks off, to go do, oh God, I can see my dog going up the stairs.
Oh,
I just saw that.
That's never a good sign.
It's adorable, but he's going to go poop or pee up there. So, but anyways, it's not going to affect that so much. And like I said, just a couple weeks for the honeymoon. But other than that, it's actually been nice because it's a big weight off of both our shoulders. We've been talking about marriage for a long time, and finally we're taking the steps towards it. And she's doing most of the planning, and I get to be the StarCraft 2 player.
Well, that's great. That's really awesome. So I guess segue back into StarCraft related questions. You talked about what game you'd be playing if it wasn't StarCraft, but what about just in general? What do you think you'd be doing right now if you weren't a pro gamer?
Gosh, I wouldn't have nearly as fun of a life. I think I would be a high school teacher and football coach. I'd still be lifting on the side, and I'd still be playing a crap ton of games. I'm definitely a gamer. A lot of people say that, and I think we all know, like, true gamers kind of know what that means. It means that a lot of their actual enjoyment happens when they're playing a new and exciting, challenging game, right? Something that really tickles their fancy. So I'd still be playing the Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solids, I'm saying Solids, but the series.
The plural of Solids,
yeah,
whatever that may be.
I realized that could sound quite funny, but and I like computer games. Like I always played Counter-Strike. So unfortunately, that community is kind of dying out. Hopefully Go can give it a resurgence, but I actually log on and play Call of Duty every once in a while. It's been about a month for me, but nonetheless, I still play that game.
Do we need to take a go catch the dog break?
No.
Okay.
At the worst case scenario, I have a job to do after this. So.
Gotcha. I've had 2 animals in the house as well. I know exactly how that could be.
Yep.
I'm a klutz. So. I got myself to watch after.
Are you saying you poop in your own hallway, Kyle?
Sometimes. Man.
Oh. All right. We've all had
No, don't go there.
So you started the coaching craze in North America. You were the first to endorse Barcraft and one of the first to start player streaming. Which of these trends do you feel had the most impact on the scene?
Well, I know that's the Prima Dog question. He's actually almost too kind because like the Barcraft thing was going to happen. I was happy to be in a place at the NASL stage where it was actually Prima Dog came up and said, hey, there's this thing called Barcraft going on, and a lot of people are really excited about it. I'd really love it if you mentioned it. And I told him, yeah, sure, just give me a list of all the Barcrafts that are going on, and we'll talk about it. And that's when the subreddit happened. That's when a lot of them kind of started to inflate their numbers of people attending and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to really take credit for that. He's too nice. Like, it's actually him telling me to do it, and me, like I've always said, I'll try to help people out. So if I hear a good idea, I want to share it. But I do, to toot my own horn a little bit, I do think I was partly responsible for the coaching craze, and I think we'll never truly understand how much good that's doing, but almost every pro gamer has, on some level, a coaching portion of their career. If part of the way they're supporting themselves while playing StarCraft 2 as a hobby/profession is through coaching, and I think for me that's a big part of, in my opinion, that's the one that takes my vote, because it's interesting, and not a lot of people were here for this or remember it, but when I first started coaching, I was getting just swaths of people that were just pissed and upset. They thought I was exploiting the scene. They thought I was trying to make an easy buck. I was charging, I think, $5 an hour at the time, and then went up to 10. But people really were pissed off, and just ethically, they didn't feel comfortable with me saying, I will accept money to teach you how to play a game.
How dare you offer, to teach for less than a minimum wage? That's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, but it's interesting. I think it's because it was such a new thing, right? Like, players were just players, and they kind of got away with tricking the system into playing the game for hours on end and still existing in a normal life. So when I turned it into hey, I could actually make money doing this, a lot of people took that as in the wrong way. So after I kind of opened the doors and got people to, like, I was pretty consistent. Every time I got asked about it, I would give the same spiel, like, do you pay a golf instructor to teach you golf? Are you going to be a professional golfer? No, but you want to do better at that, right? Or a piano teacher, these kind of things. So eventually got to the point where the community was like, oh, okay, for the most part, they're like, I still understand. I get it now. So now everyone's coaching, but you'll still see comments in threads. Like, even if you look at the stream chat now, they're talking about the price of IDrA, and a lot of people misunderstand that. He doesn't think his coaching is $300 value, worth of value. He just doesn't want to coach as much, so his time is worth that much money. So there's all kinds of different perspectives that go into that, but I am pretty proud of the fact that I was one of the pathfinders to allow for a lot of my fellow pro gamers to make a living while doing this game.
Yeah. Good. Of the three, though, of coaching, of Barcraft, and of streaming, which do you think had the largest impact?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the coaching, because I was one of the first streamers, but there was other guys that were before me for sure, and I'm thinking early beta too. There was a lot of people that really kind of kick-started that. I was happy to be a part of it, but I wasn't one of the originators. So in terms of what had the most impact, and then what I think I can claim as having actually done the most for, I think that's coaching. I'm happy to have a piece of the pie in terms of Barcraft and streaming. I'm glad that people think of me when they think of those things, but I could never take responsibility for it.
Gotcha. Now, is streaming something you enjoy doing and something you look forward to, or is it just a necessary part of being a professional gamer who's trying to support themselves?
I really like streaming. I think streaming is a huge, huge part of the reason why StarCraft 2 is taking off as well it is. It's a way for you to hear and interact with a member, a top player potentially. It's a way for that player to make money just by playing the game, and it creates content. It creates organic content on a continuous basis, right? Like, I could alt-tab from this interview right now if I was a total unprofessional jerk and fire up someone's stream like Hero or Huck or something like that. And that is content for me. Some people used to get up from the computer and go watch TV or catch a show or something like that, but why do that now when I have a StarCraft 2 stream available for me to view? So I think streaming has made this game much, much more interesting to a greater number of people, and then it's helped reward the people that make this game interesting, i.e. the players. So it's this like full circle of everyone's benefiting, and it's kind of growing and growing and growing. So I'm really excited to see like Twitch and Own3D compete. I want to see. I'm waiting for the day when Twitch comes to me and says, "Hey, you've done a great job streaming. We want to pay you $20,000 a year to make sure that you sign a one-year contract with us." And I think we could get to that point. I think we kind of already have. Like, Own3D went to Destiny, and it's not $20,000 a year, but they offered him money to sign with them. And that's not necessarily great for you guys, but it's really good for the players, which in turn I think is good for the audience as well.
Well, yeah, anything that lets you guys keep doing what you're doing on a more regular and more consistent basis is, I wouldn't consider a negative thing.
Yeah.
On the subject, what do you think makes for a successful StarCraft 2 stream?
That's a great question, and I'm so happy you asked that because I'd like to answer as many times as possible because there's a lot of streams that simply aren't doing it. And, I mean, a good example would be, well, not off of what I just said, a good example of a great stream, to word it correctly, is what I'm looking at right now. When I watch your guys, I see great graphics, I see little windows with the faces, I see new content, you guys are bringing in different people, I see moderators diligently working with the stream chat. That's all good stuff for a podcast. For a competitive stream, it needs to be commentary. Commentary. A good story is IDrA. IDrA would sit in this house, and he'd be streaming, and it'd be like 8,000, 9,000 people, which obviously is absolutely ludicrous. And I said, Greg, you got to stream with commentary, man. He goes, I know, I don't really want to. I'm like, Greg, do you not like money? Do you like, what are you doing? He's like, fine, I'll do it. And he streamed with commentary, and it was like 16,000 or 20,000. And I mean, that's just an example of how important commentary is for a stream. If some players stream with music blaring, it's like, it's literally 50% of what they could have with commentary. So if you're out there and streaming, talk to your people. The other thing is fan interaction. So if the stream chat's asking questions, if they're talking, make sure you communicate with them. If they feel like they can talk to you, that's an attraction to the stream chat or to the stream as well. If I know that I tune into Huck's stream and he never talks and he never participates with the community or anything like that, then it's cool. I'll check it out, but I would be more inclined to do it if I knew that there was a chance that he could answer my question or something like that. So commentary, interaction, and then the raw fact of the matter is aesthetics. Nobody wants to watch a terrible pixelated screen, and nobody wants to watch a choppy, terrible stream. So upgrade your computer and don't run it on low graphics settings. Unless you're a Stefano, you need to have probably, in my opinion, at least medium, if not high. And that will actually inflate your numbers. It's been proven. We've done tests here at the house. It's pretty true. So those are the most important things as far as I'm concerned.
Those are some awesome truth nuggets you're dropping in here.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about this just because I think from the casual perspective, a lot of people want to stream so they're motivated to play more and keep working on the ladder and have someone there to watch them and give some feedback to it.
Yep.
What would you recommend to someone interested in doing something with a face on it, such as streaming or podcasting, but suffer from a bit of anxiety or stage fright? You've mentioned being on a debate team in college. Is there something along those lines that you could recommend for somebody post-college?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I really try to put myself in other people's perspective on that situation. Like I've always, I've always been kind of, I thrive on public speaking. Actually, that's a big part of the reason why I loved college debate, and I was captain of the football team, all those kind of different things where it was a leadership role where you had to speak to people and be in front of people, and I always really liked that. So it's hard for me to identify it with people that don't do that, but it's a proven fact. Well, as much as it can be, but it's a fact that people actually fear public speaking more than they fear death in the United States. It ranks high. That was a stat that was true at least 5 years ago, and I can't imagine it's been passed up too much there. But the point is, it's one of the biggest anxieties a person can have. So my best piece of advice is to just take the plunge. Like, turn on that webcam and just talk into it. And what ends up happening is eventually you don't even think it's there, actually. You kind of forget that 6,000 people are staring at you right now. That is until you pick your nose on webcam, and then it's every thread on Reddit or something like that. But
We've all been there.
Until then, it's just a matter of taking the plunge. Because I mean, certainly things like an improv class would help, or go read poetry or some shit. I don't know, that kind of stuff. Like that's, in my opinion, that sounds more scary than webcamming it even. So just do it, basically, because that is the next big part too. Like if you're gonna do a show, unless you have some kind of other graphical thing going on, it's probably not really possible to do a successful show at least without the webcam on the faces of the people talking. People just need things to look at while they're listening to something. It's kind of true.
Yeah. Sounds like some good practice too for MLG, where you guys are just kind of sitting in the middle of a fishbowl.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, well, I think that's another part that helps that out too. Like, if you're comfortable interacting with a bunch of people that you don't know, you should be okay talking in front of people on a webcam, right?
Yeah. If you can name 3 essential qualities that any aspiring pro gamer should have, what would those qualities be?
Well, as far as StarCraft 2 is concerned, the first one would have to be work ethic. I think StarCraft 2 is a hugely time-consuming game. Like, there's nobody out there. Stefano kind of claims it, but we know it to not be true for the most part. Who's just like, I play for 2 hours every other day, and I'm pretty damn good. You know, one of the biggest alienating/dividing factors about StarCraft is who can afford 5+ hours a day of rigorous gameplay. So you got to have that work ethic. You got to set time aside. You got to sit down and actually divvy up your time. It's not a matter of just pointing and clicking with a mouse and typing on a keyboard. It's what am I clicking on? What am I typing? You know, it's very important that you're engaging the game mentally for 5 or 6+ hours a day. The next important quality, in my opinion, in this day and age, is you have to be outgoing, which is like a very vague way of saying you got to be some kind of a character. So you don't have to be a Destiny. You don't have to be, even someone like me. But if you're going to stream on your commentary and you're, okay, now I'm making drones and it looks like there's some Meatless here, so maybe I should consider making a spore colony. Like, no one's going to listen to that, right? No one's going to watch that. And when you do interviews, like, let's say you did pretty good at a tournament, and the person gets up there and they're like, well, I don't know, the tournament was pretty cool, I guess. I was really happy with it, and I like StarCraft. That person gets forgotten unless they win everything, unless they're just destroying people. What's my example of this? Koreans. Say what you want. They are the better players, but their personality, in terms of the Western community, is so, for the most part, dry that a lot of times I can turn on a frickin' Jelizerg stream and he'll have half as many people watching as Cats or Destiny. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. So character and being outgoing is actually a really important part about being a successful StarCraft 2 pro gamer. So the third quality, I guess, to a certain extent would be the community, which is kind of, I guess the way I would describe what I'm about to say is a pro gamer can only be so good as the people surrounding them. So if you really pursue better training partners, people that are better than you, better ladders, so buying an EU account or a Korean account as opposed to just playing on NA, and then having people that can support you when you get stressed out, or so a lot of times that means relationships. Like, if you have a girlfriend that's nagging on you about playing the game all the time, you're probably not playing as good as you could. So you need to work on that, Obviously, every girl is so super awesome that they're totally accepting of StarCraft 2. That's the way it works, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's so easy to find a girlfriend that'll let you play for 5 hours a day.
Right.
So
work ethic, character, and the community around you. Those are the most important things.
Cythium in the chat room makes a really good point about a Korean that does have character that I think sticks in everyone's minds, and that's MC.
Oh yeah. He sticks out. He'd be an especially awesome character if he was a non-Korean as well. He's a special person in the community we're all lucky to have.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Kyle, I'll cut you off.
Oh, no problem. We were discussing this last week. Do you think it's mostly an American phenomenon that pro players are such celebrities, or is this kind of an all-around thing? I mean, you've been around the world with this game.
I would just tell you, yeah, you bring up the last point. I have been all around, and I went to Home Story Cup in Germany, and I had just as much of a fan reception there as I would anywhere else, if not more so, because they knew that was one of my rare trips to Europe. So I think there's something to be said for people that play this game, but then also interact with people and make it more interesting. They're just going to be more beloved than just a great player. Like, if this were an RPG, there are the players who have such high skill that's why we love them. That's why we want them on our team. So that's like like any of the Koreans. They're just so damn good that's really interesting. And that makes up for the deficit in other categories if this were an RPG, like, character, charisma, and entertainment value, right? So some of these players have different varying statistics for why we like them, but I don't think it's an American or regionalistic thing. I think it's pretty universal. I will say this, Korean fans, for the most part, they categorize skill way ahead of everything else. So a better player doesn't have to have personality, and they'll be a big celebrity just for that. Girls will cover their face and cry for you in Korea. But even as that is, I have fans, and I've talked to people in Korea who know about me, not because I'm winning tournaments, which unfortunately I'm not just yet, but they know about me because of casting or personality and little funny clips that they'll see on YouTube, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now we've seen that that IDrA and Huck were eliminated from Code A, a few days ago. What do you think their chances are to get back into Code A next season? And what's been going on with Puma? We haven't seen him playing too well recently.
Yeah, no, that's a great question too. Huck, I think, has an excellent chance. He was coming off of Christmas break. Pro gamers play 11 months, high octane, full throttle. This is what they do for every day. And that's really tiring. So December is the month where there's basically no tournaments, and that's the time most of the pro gamers take to go home and see family, so they're playing a lot less. And that's what happened to Huck. He went actually back to Canada. He saw fans. There's that huge meet and greet where several hundred people came out and saw him. And he did a phenomenal job there. But when he came back, he was out of practice. He had just got off a plane, and then there was some computer problems too. So I'm not saying that that's the full reason why he dropped all the way down to Code B, where he is now, but that's definitely a contributing factor. So I do anticipate he'll bounce back up. IDrA, on the other hand, is probably going to come back to the lair fairly soon, so that he can participate in these big non-Korean tournaments that are starting to kick up. We got MLG, IPL, NASL, just to name the three big ones, but there's actually others as well. So he'll be back here for a while, and then I think he'll probably go back to Korea again. So he's going to kind of bounce around between the two. And that's my long-winded way of saying I don't think he'll continue with GSL, but that's not the final word. And then Puma is interesting. In NASL, he's untouchable. He beats everybody and wins himself gigantic wads of cash. And then outside of that, he does really well in practice. He does phenomenal in a lot of our clan leagues. He's kind of our big ace. He's our carry still. But when it comes to the GSL, he runs up against some walls. I mean, this past GSL was Sniper from Team MVP, if I'm not mistaken, and that's actually a huge up-and-coming good Zerg. So it's just kind of it's a lot like the Courage tournament was in Brood War. There is some luck involved. Some guys have easier paths than others.
All right. It seems that in the past you have sometimes talked about trying to make IDrA think about his attitude to games, mainly with regard to hanging in there and not quitting at the first sign that he is behind. Do you think that you've had any success with this?
Yeah, it's kind of it takes a village to raise an IDrA, that's for sure. Alex has worked really closely with Greg. I think Greg values Alex's opinion, so you'll see Alex go into the booth. You'll see, the book idea of Mind Gym was Alex's. That was something that another EG squad actually read, and it had really good success. And Greg himself said it helped him out a lot too. So it's definitely Alex as well. But then here in the lair, Greg's got some good friends like Machine, myself, and DeMuslim, and we really work with him too. I, of course, have more of a leadership role, so I take it as a responsibility as opposed to just a friendly thing I'm doing for somebody. And I try. The thing about Greg is, I'm sure a lot of people can pick up on, he's not the kind of guy to sit down and have a touchy-feely talk for an hour and a half, So you got to kind of pick your moments and make sure that you're not rubbing him the wrong way. And it's a slow-going process, but I think he's got the people around him to hopefully make the changes he needs to.
Good. Now, what kind of what kind of inside stuff do you guys do at the team house environment that we don't get to see or experience that you feel greatly changes or improves your play? And I would add to that, that you're allowed to talk about.
Yeah. I think a huge benefit of the team house is that when we're sitting down to have dinner or we're just hanging out watching a show, cooling down from a long day of practicing, we still gravitate towards talking about StarCraft. So if during that day Machine was having a tough time with multitasking or DeMuslim was having, he was feeling really down because he just got kicked out of a tournament, that's the time where we have the support network of friends/teammates who go, hey man, don't worry about it. It's a long year. A lot of fans are really excited about you. There's always the next tournament, right? You can't win all of them. And little stuff like that sounds kind of silly, but if you think about the alternative where Machine or DeMuslim are sitting by themselves in their own apartments or their family's house or something like that, and nobody tells them that. Nobody knows that. And they're just alone with their thoughts about how, shit, I can't believe I threw that game away, or my team is counting on me for that big win and I totally failed. And then that bleeds into the next day and that affects their practice, and then they don't go to the gym and they're not dieting, and so they start to slide. Obviously that's a kind of a elevated potential for what could happen there, but that stuff does happen. So there's the social support aspect But then also just stuff that goes on behind scenes too is like I can walk over to the machine and say, hey, I'm having a real tough time with Roach Ling all-ins. Can we just do that for 20 games? And we could do that online too, but the benefit of talking about it in person is huge. It's huge. And then I guess the other thing that a house does that people don't really know is it holds people accountable. So if a player for some reason was feeling lazy and just didn't want to play, everybody would see that, right? And we'd all go to them and say, get your ass in gear, you got to go practice. That's what you're getting paid to do. Whereas, again, if they're at their house and by themselves, there's not that accountability.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Do you think you would make a good player/coach motivator? Do you offer any sports psychology advice to any of the other players in EG?
Yeah. I grew up playing sports, and I fancy myself pretty dang good in sports psychology. Read a lot of books, worked with a lot of people, that kind of a thing. So I do feel like that's one of the value sets that I bring to the table. I think when you have myself on your team, you can count on me making the players around me better. That's one of the things I pride myself on. I'm not a tournament winner yet. Of course, every day I'm striving to be that kind of a player, but it's a long and slow-going process and oftentimes painful. All of last year I took my lickings, but one thing I will do, and there's no failure here, is I'll make the people better around me. So when I'm in this house as captain, a lot of what I do to facilitate my value is I make sure everyone's on task, make sure everyone's mentally healthy and happy. I try to relieve stress and encourage us to do fun stuff outside of StarCraft. Not too often, obviously, but enough so that people can cool down and be ready to go. And I think that that's something that is really important, but not everybody emphasizes. So I think that's one of the things that in the long run is going to prove to be really valuable for EG.
Gotcha. Cool. Did you when you were in sports in high school and whatnot, did you break the stereotype since you're a gamer too? Did you get along with the nerds, or did you make our lives live in hell back in high school days?
No. Actually, I was like in high school. I was on the chess team. I was captain of the chess team, the captain of the football team, and at the same time, I was actually captain of the United States Brood War squad. We had like a national team, so I always liked saying that because not a lot of people can talk about how they had a lot of success in physical sports, but then were also the nerdiest role you could possibly have in for a StarCraft team. Like, it was the Olympic team for our StarCraft Brood War squad. Give me a break. That's pretty damn nerdy. So, I mean, every day I would do football practice in school, then I would come home, and I'd hang out with my friends and play Warhammer, or we would drink and go see movies, just typical fun high school stuff. But every night it was 3 or 4 hours of sitting on vent with Artosis and G5 Machine, IDrA. Rhett would come on there. Tyler was on there. A lot of the names that people know now, we actually just played every single night into the wee hours, and that's what we did all the way through college. So I was a nerd. I was a nerd amongst nerds, but I love to play my sports too.
Nice. This is an awesome group of friends you just rattled off.
Yeah.
So, where do you see yourself after your StarCraft 2 playing career ends? Would you ever consider going into, say, casting full time?
Yeah. I just want to be a part of StarCraft. So hopefully, I'm able to play for a few more years, and that's what I want to do. And as long as it pays the bills and I'm happy, and those two criteria are met, then I can justify doing it. And if after that I have my say, then I'd like to be a team manager, a team owner. I'd like to be a commentator, a league organizer. I just want to work within the industry because I get that entrepreneurial feel from it, but I also get that really progressive and like we're changing things. I really like the way it feels, so I wanted to be there.
Nice. Yeah, you're definitely one of the people that first comes to mind when I think of people who have helped move this scene as far as it's come, and it's come so far in the last 2 years. It's ridiculous.
Oh, and certainly advancing the nerd culture, because, I mean, there are all the stories that you were making everyone bench in the house, but that has rubbed off on the community, most certainly.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. I mean, I think on the one hand, it's fun. A lot of people have good fun with it, but on the other two, like, in order to spend as many hours as we do playing this game, you have to really take care of your body. Otherwise, if you've ever had like a really depressed day or you've been sick and then you try to play StarCraft, it's harder. You don't play as well, and that can be said for people that don't see the sunlight for a few days. Get outside, go do something. A lot of people need exercise to be happy, and I feel like if I encourage that and help people see how that's beneficial to StarCraft, then it'll be good too.
Yeah, it just helps. It helps break more stereotypes. So it's good to think about, super nerds taking care of themselves physically too.
Yeah.
So what are your goals for the next 12 months in regard to StarCraft?
It's a great question. My goals are pretty simple. Like I want to be a better player. I want better results. So like last year, I had a 4th place at the very beginning, which is okay. But then for the rest of the year, it was like a dogfight that I was losing over and over again. So I don't really want to be a player that people give excuses for and kind of like, oh shucks, you'll get him next time. I want to be a player who enters a tournament and people are like, okay, yeah, I could see how he has a good chance in that group, or you got to watch out. His PBT is really, really strong. I'd like to be talked about that way, and in no way, shape, or form do I think I've earned it yet. So for this next year, I'm going to be working really hard to gain that respect and to get myself into a position where that's how people talk about me. And if that means winning tournaments or placing really highly, great. If that means that I just play a lot better and turn out better results, then that's okay too. But I want to be a better player and hopefully win tournaments. That's my goal. And then I also want to see this team succeed. So we've had a rough start, EG, with the team leagues going on right now. And as you just asked about the players dropping out of GSL, it's a long year and there's a lot of competition to be had. So my goal is much more long-term than just the first 2 months of 2012. But I want EG to be undisputed at the top of the list for everyone's top teams.
Well, nice. And that's, I know I'm not alone when I say, we wish you luck. I think I'd be afraid to be in the room at an MLG or be at a Barcraft watching the MLG if you were to take the number 1 spot. I think every single table in that damn place would be flipped.
Thank you.
They would go nuts. So who's your all-time, who's your favorite StarCraft player? And this includes Brood War.
Savior. I had the chance to actually have some drinks with Savior and talk with him a few times, and he was an awesome guy. Obviously, for people that know, he got caught up in a betting scandal, which is really unfortunate. But at his prime, he was probably the best StarCraft player, in my opinion, ever. And a lot of people remember Flash and Jaedong, but Savior in his prime was beating I Love Oob, who had like a 24-0 TVZ streak, and he was doing it with style. So I based a lot of my play after him. And he also had this, like, to be honest, there's the non-tangible part where he was kind of like the villain of StarCraft. He just always was portrayed that way. And much to Anna's disappointment, I actually identify with villains in everything. I love bad guys in every movie.
Darth Vader is the coolest fan character in the whole damn saga. So.
Oh, yeah. I know I'm not alone on that, but yeah, I love bad guys. So Savior is the bad guy. He was my boy.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned with Warhammer playing as the aliens. It's the best to be the monsters.
Oh, yeah. I'm the all-consuming swarm. They just devour every planet.
What about right now, currently? Do you have a different player that you would consider your favorite right now?
Yeah, right now, I would have to say someone perhaps like Hero from Team Liquid. He has nerve issues, I think, too, that he's trying to get over in big major competitions. But when you watch his stream, he plays some of the most exciting and crisp StarCraft 2 that I've ever seen. It's really what pulled me into the game. In Brood War, there's this real scrappy feeling to it. Like there's just chaos going on everywhere. And I feel like Hero plays a brand of StarCraft 2 that really channels that. So there's like a warp prism over here. There's like a small Colossus army over here. He's blink stalker harassing with 4 guys behind a mineral line. I really like that level of play. And for right now, he's my favorite.
Do you think there should be a unified governing body to regulate contracts, trading, and transfer of players from team to team, and other such tournament standards?
Yeah, I think everyone would benefit from such a governing body. I think that would be a good idea, and if done right, would be beneficial for everyone. The problem is, I don't know if we could ever facilitate such a thing. just because you have to find enough people dedicated to work at least in the beginning for free on something that would be a full-time job and would be selfless, right? Like, you don't make money managing the community unless you start to collect a tax or something like that, or prize earnings like Kespa did. At which point, then that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. So,
Yeah.
in theory, it's great. In practice, not so much. A lot like communism.
Yeah, execution sounds like it'd be a little difficult.
Yep.
But hey, go StarCraft Communist Party.
Yeah.
Your results at MLG are nothing to be ashamed of, but I know you're looking for that big win. What are you doing differently now to prepare for MLG this season, and how much practice do you regularly put in?
You know, this is interesting. I get asked this a lot recently because a lot of people have been talking about the EG practice sessions that are getting streamed right now. And last year, it's not like I didn't practice. I certainly did, but it was mostly ladder practice. It was very little custom games. And a lot of times, I think what happened is I fell into the swing of just going through the motions. So I wouldn't go into it mentally engaged with an idea of what I need to work on and what I need to come away with a better idea of. So I think I wasted a lot of time last year. Now, like the reason I'm happy you're asking me this so I can clarify is it's not like at the time I thought I was wasting time, right? It's just in retrospect I'm realizing that what I was doing was inefficient. So now in 2012 and in the last month or two, I've been flipping that on its head. I play less ladder games. I still play ladder games to get the mass games in there and get practice. But what I do mostly is I play custom games with my teammates and then a lot of our friends who are other, mostly North American top pro gamers. And we do it while on Skype chat with each other, and we talk about it. And for me, it really works. It just absolutely does. Already, everything I participated in, I've gotten better results. But most importantly, I can just feel it in my gameplay. DeMuslim and I have knock 'em down, drag 'em out fights every single night. And, even the ones I lose, I now have that feeling like when I watch a Naniwa or Sase, where even when they lose, it looks like it was tough to beat them, It wasn't just like you showed up with an army and they died. That's how I felt in 2011. It was like I executed some strategies that won some games, but then like they would just show up with an army and I'd die. And in 2012, I feel like I'm right there with the big guns, and I'm really happy about it. So the practice schedule being flipped on its head in terms of ladder versus customs, and then having that coupled with the saturation of discussion that we do every single day for 5 or 6 hours, it's benefiting me in a huge way. So that's the difference.
All right. Now let's reminisce for a moment. What do you miss most about your days at Brood War and your gamer life outside of the public eye with the rest of the StarCraft 2 pillars, such as Day 9, Noni, Artosis, etc.?
Well, this is it's a hypothetical question, so I'll answer it honestly. So hopefully people don't take this the wrong way. But when I played Brood War with my boys, we could say whatever the hell we wanted. I have a pretty vulgar and like if you were to just hang out with me, you would have to know me to know that I'm not serious. Like a lot of what I say is pretty, like for instance, this could get taken completely the wrong way. But like Ann and I will be sitting in a car, and like an African American couple will walk by, and I'll like slink down and lock it, and be like, Anna, don't say anything, which is funny because obviously, I have a ton of black friends and everything like that, but the joke is like that I'm worried about that. So stuff like that, where if you know me, it's okay. But if I were to do it on webcam without any premise, it's like, holy shit, this guy's an asshole. In Brood War, we didn't worry about that. We would, every single night, Artosis would log off. He'd rage quit because we made fun of him too much and he had to go away. Greg would lose and we'd just all argue and snicker and laugh at him. He'd log off. But that's how we treat each other. And it was really fun that way. So it was kind of a boys' club that way. But we had a really good time. And we didn't have to worry that what we said would be misconstrued. So the reason I said it's a blessing and a curse is because I understand that was really good and fun, but that was because people didn't really care and we didn't have the attention of the community, right? So when we talked, there wasn't as many people watching. But now in StarCraft 2, if I say something really stupid, rightfully so, thousands and thousands of people are going to come down on me because they don't know the full story. So I have to clean up the way I act and clean up the way I talk as a public figure. And I respect and appreciate both. I'm happy that I have the attention of people, so I need to refine myself. But I also enjoyed my time where I could joke around about anything and it would be okay.
Gotcha. Well, apparently not. We're having to kick people out of the chat room because they're saying this is too nice and calm. They want controversy and gossip. So I don't know. Maybe you should just start letting it fly.
Yeah.
So onward to more questions. These are all kind of strategy related. The first one is how do I keep myself motivated to keep playing StarCraft 2? This person said that they always get cheesed or all in. They said it's quite frustrating. So obviously, this is something I hear about on other shows quite often, is that the fear of the find match button.
There is, StarCraft by nature, because it's hyper-masculine, it's very competitive, and it's very cerebral. When someone gets beaten, they take it almost personally a lot of times. They feel like they just got outdone by another alpha male or something like that. There's definitely like that feeling to this game. So the reason I'm prefacing it this way is because a lot of people come to me with this problem. They're like, how do you stay motivated? Like I lose and I just want to punch a hole in the wall and quit forever. The best thing I can tell you is you just literally need to do the mental legwork and tell yourself this is a game. This is something that is fun. And as long as you're having fun, you're going to get better and you're going to play better, which means you're going to play more consistently. It's completely random. There's actually nobody at the door and they're just barking. So like there's definitely times, like I can remember back, one of my most upsetting losses, it was 6 months into the game, was I played Demaga for the semifinals of an HD Invitational, and this was one of the furthest I've ever gone in a tournament. And I was 1-1 with Demaga in the best of 3, and Game 3 was on Test Bug. And I crushed him. I was crushing his army. I was beating his third. The game was going to be won. I was so happy. But then I made a couple of mistakes fighting without force fields in the middle of an open field, and he started to kill me, and the game started going down, 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 and then I eventually lost. And I remember being so mad because it was such an opportunity lost. Like, I felt sick to my stomach. If I beat Demaga there and go to the finals of this tournament, I know my fans are going to be just so happy. They're going to be like, wow, you did it. It's so good. Congrats. But if I lose to Demaga in the semifinals, which is still a nice showing, it's kind of one of those, meh, okay job. But what I did was I took deep breaths and I said, okay, I got to keep going. I'm not quitting now, right? Like, I'm going to play this game. This is how I make my living. This is what I do to have fun. So let it go. And it took a couple of woo-saws, and it took a couple of deep breaths, and maybe some walking around. But then I played some more games, and I was okay. And that sounds really like dramatic and too much. But I tell you, the people out there that like get so mad they slam their keyboard and they're pissed and they're asking, how do you stay motivated? It's all mental, man. You just got to look at it as something you do for fun that you have a lot of fun with. So
nice.
That's it.
Who the hell has played an RTS and hasn't wanted to break the keyboard in half?
It's got to be. Yeah, it's just got to be at a whole different level for you, though, because you've got a whole fan base that's just an encyclopedia. I mean, you've been a little vocal on Twitter in the past when some people have upset you, but sure, understandably so. When someone, obviously, a loss is going to upset you in the first place, right, but then people will continue to bring these to you over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a growing process. I think a big part of the reason why last year was so tough for me was I definitely, and I've learned to be a little bit careful with this term because I didn't go to a doctor and get it diagnosed, but I was pretty sure I was clinically depressed a couple of times, which just meant that no matter what, I couldn't make myself happy, and there's just a 1,000-pound weight over the top of me for a couple of days. And a large part of that was because my mind was so outside of myself. It was thinking, what are people going to say? Do people still appreciate me? Oh my God, there's a thread on Reddit where they're talking about how I played other video games. And I was like, I don't have a personal life anymore. I have to watch everything I say. It was consuming me. It was very bothersome that every time I lost, it wasn't just a loss. It was, wow, you're terrible in my stream chat, on Twitter, on Reddit, on Team Liquid for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And at first, that was really hard to deal with. And when I say at first, I mean for 365 days last year. But I definitely have gotten to a place where I've just accepted it. Because look at this on the flip side. Let's say I lose games. Let's say I do something stupid. Let's say I, make a mistake, and nobody cares. Nobody says anything. Because you know what? Most people have that situation in StarCraft 2. If Joe Below 165 gets knocked out of MLG, nobody gives him shit. Good job for going. You're a brave soul, And I would rather have the attention. I would rather have people care enough about me to follow my results and to communicate with me, good or bad, than for people to not care, because that's what I want. That's what I want for myself. I want the attention, and I want people to care when I succeed or fail. And as long as that's true, someday I will succeed, and there'll be people there to congratulate me, and that's means the world to me. So that's what I want.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, a lot of fans would be very sad if you left, but I mean, certainly it's interesting to hear, the first person perspective of it, because we can call ourselves, hey, good guy. Oh, I'm considerate of his emotions, but it's just a whole nother deal hearing it from you.
Yeah.
So you were relatively quiet on State of the Game 60.5 about your take on Phoenixes and PvP. I'd love to hear your thoughts about them in PvP and the other two matchups if you feel like remarking on those as well.
Sure. I'll start with the short answers first. It's easy to see their use against Terran because there's a lot of one-base play going on, specifically in Korea, but still outside of Korea. A lot of players fancy the Phoenix is a nice way to counter that Raven Banshee composition, and then potentially you can lift up the tanks for the major engagement as well. So basically you're just fighting Marines, which is still freaking tough, but at least not as tough as Marines, tanks, and Banshees in a Raven. So we're seeing a lot of that. Outside of that, not so much, and that's just because while picking off medevacs is cool, the cost of a Stargate that you're not going to really use later because Void Rays in mid-game are pointless, and then obviously nobody makes carriers, is too much of a cost, right? So it's pretty much just if you're reading one-on-one, or if you're going to try some kind of weird thing to throw them off. And then in PvZ, they're a nice follow-up to a Void Ray opening, so you can kind of pick off those straggling queens. And they're nice to do as a counter to Mutalisk. But what I mean by that is you need to have like 6 Phoenix before they have 1 Mutalisk, and then they're a nice counter, which is cool. So if you scout them out going Spire, then make that second Stargate, and then go, Chrono Boost out some Phoenix. So that's kind of cool there. PvP is where I think they really shine, because 3 or 4 Phoenix can do so much to throw off your opponent. It's perfect scouting, right? You're always going to see what they're doing, basically, with those Phoenix moving as fast as they do. You're almost always guaranteed to pick off probes on a pretty routine basis, so you can almost just straight up trade the cost of the Phoenix for the amount of probes you're going to kill. The question is, can you do it in enough time before they hit you? And if the answer is yes, then they're almost always worth it. So just the way the Phoenix functions in PvP right now I really like, because it's really diversifying the gameplay, which is something I think PvP needed. And since they've done 2 nerfs now to 4-gate, we've seen a lot more exciting PvPs. It's a different matchup than it was 6 months ago.
Gotcha. Is there a generally safe build against one-gas Terrans? Artosis says Gate Robo Gate, then maybe expand. Do you agree, or do you have another build that you prefer?
Yeah, I think there's several different openings. And all of them have their inherent dangers, right? If they go one gas, they can still go like Marauder Expand or even Reactor Marine Expand. In which case, if you're locking up your infrastructure too much, then you're going to be in trouble. So if you're at 3 gateways in a robo and they just dropped a 1-Rax Expand with like a reactor on it, then you better damn well do some damage with a few Immortals and some gateways. Otherwise, you're just miles and miles behind. So I don't know. I actually try. It's more map dependent for me. So if it's a big ass map like Entomb Valley or Antigua Shipyard or something like that, I'm still cool with 1 gate expanding. If it's a map that has a ramp leading up into the natural, like a Shakira's Plateau or Antigua Shipyard or Entomb Valley, same thing, because 3 or 4 sentries could potentially hold off a giant army that you weren't expecting. And if it's more like a map like Metalopolis, then sometimes I'll go like 1 gate robo into 3 gates, then expand, which is I guess what Artosis just described. You just have to be really careful about that expansion timing.
Gotcha. Now, how about what is the best thing a Protoss can do to deal with the fake aggression from Terrans, such as in-base expansions and 3-Rax medevac?
Yeah, I hear all the time about 3-Rax medevac. It's so funny. I'll tell you what, that is like almost purely a sub-Master League thing. You just don't see it. And a big part of the reason why is because if you do a good job scouting, so your probe's kind of watching the front of their natural area, and you get an observer out in a reasonable amount of time, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're facing. Like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, I guess, in its entirety, but the point is, you should be in a position where if they do just, let's say, expand normally, your Nexus should go down within a minute of that, and then you're pretty much okay with Chrono Boost getting extra probes out. Or if they go like 3-Rex Medevac, then you should be prepared to understand that there's a chance you might have to cancel your Nexus, and that's totally okay, because they've skewed all their economy towards a timing attack.
Yeah. So, next question, this person said, when I watch your stream, very often in ZVP, almost always, you commit fairly heavily to denying Zerg from expanding. Cannons galore. Besides just pulling a bunch of drones and forcing a hatchery, what can I do as Zerg to combat this off one base that wouldn't be considered an all-in?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mean, a big part of the reason why I do that every game and why it works so well is because Zergs still don't really have an understanding of how they should react to it. And my best piece of advice is really just kind of stick to the game plan. So if you're opening up gas list, your plan should have always been to take 3 hatcheries, right? Expand to a second natural at least, or maybe a fast macro hatch, in which case flip it on its head. Go take that 3rd first. Well, in this case, take your expansion first, which would have been your 3rd, and then revisit the natural once you get lings out, type of thing. But the players that super freak out and they build like 20 Zerglings and they try to Nidus and they go Roach and stuff like that, that's the predictable route to go. That's what they want you to do. The other thing here too is always send your second Overlord to your natural. So many times do I cannon rush a Zerg that just built their hatchery at their natural and they have no vision. They just, and people on my stream are like, God, you're so cheesy. Ugh, the cannon rush. And it's like, dude, like try to imagine a football game where a guy fumbles the ball and everyone just stands there and looks at it. And it's like, well, and then one guy goes over, picks it up, and runs in the touchdown. And everyone's like, you're such a jerk. Like, come on. You could have just played normally. You could have downed it, and we could play real game. And it's like, yeah, I could have. Or I could have just taken the points, And that's what I do when I see a blind hatchery. I take the points.
Yeah, understandably so.
As you should. Now, with all of the Terrans complaining about TVP being Protoss favored, would you be surprised to maybe see a shift into players trying mech, similar to how the PvZ matchup was before Zerg players realized there were other units besides Roaches, Hydras, and Corruptors? If so, how do you feel it would turn out and why? Is it a player error or a game balance / design error?
That's a big question. I mean, first and foremost, the imbalance that Terrans would be calling right now is just a metagame shift. What they were doing before was working against players that played Protoss inefficiently, and now Protoss players have refined their play significantly so they're getting better results. So this kind of thing has happened countless times. We've seen it in PvZ, we've seen it in ZVT. I mean, for a long time, the Mutaling Baneling style just monster moded over every Terran, right? They just had no idea how to stop that. Of course, they still won every tournament, but the point was we saw a lot of cool wins. And the same thing's happening here now. Terrans got their EMP nerfed. It was way too strong, so they can't use it as a crutch nearly as much anymore. And they're still working on that. So I guess this is my long-winded way of saying, like, just watch for the metagame. Terran players are going to innovate in this period of time, so that's where we get into the question about mech. And do I think mech will come out as a result of this? No. But do I think people experiment with it? Certainly. I think any time Terran, any race takes a dip in their win rate, that's when they go back to the drawing board and try to find ways to win. So will people experiment with mech? Sure, I think so.
All right. And what's your opinion on the current state of Protoss when it comes to muted defense as it is now and in Heart of the Swarm? Basically, how do you deal with the muted cloud?
In Heart of the Swarm?
Well, no,
I think
you're
now,
just going to build the giant beams, but right now.
I don't know, man. Yeah. In Heart of the Swarm, I'm kind of worried. They're going to take the mothership away, which is good against Broodlords, and then the Vortex, or what is it called? What's the new capital ship?
Yeah, not the carrier, but...
yeah.
Tempest.
There you go.
Too slow moving. I feel like that's going to punish Zergs that like accidentally fly into a flock of Tempests, and then all their meters are gone in 3 shots, which is really stupid. As it is right now in Wings of Liberty, the best way to deal with Mutilus is Blank Stalkers and Storm, and just good army control. So just making sure you're hitting them every time they show up, buying time by putting a cannon or 2 at your mineral lines, and then playing to the base trade. So when you move out off of 3 or 4 bases, you need to know the Zerg is going to attack with their Mutas and Lings. So if you cannon up your bases and drop off like 5 or 6 Templar back at home, there's a very strong chance that you'll win the major fight and then win the game.
Are you excited for Heart of the Swarm? Because I know we spoke with LZ Gamer and Machine, who both kind of have said they strive in those situations where a game is new and creative. Do you feel the same way?
I feel like I do, but having experienced StarCraft 2 now with that perspective, I would say that as much as I feel like I play very well when it's a period of innovation, I think that what scares me and worries me the most, I would say creates more of an anxiety for me, is that a lot of it's out of my hands. So if one race is just flat out imbalanced, this is tournament season. This is tournament time. So who knows what impacts that's going to have on our real life career. Just based off the things they announced for Heart of the Swarm, I can tell you that if they go as is, it's going to be great to be a Protoss player. So on like a humorous level, I'm mildly excited about that. But I know there's no way in hell any of that stuff makes it into the actual game. Like, no way do I get mass recall and make any building into a photon cannon. That's ludicrous. That's just absolutely ludicrous.
Quite skeptical of that as well. Do you think that StarCraft will hit a point where Wings of Liberty balance will be fixed in Heart of the Swarm and the game will be balanced for a while during major tournaments? Or is this a fear you have, or how do you handle things like this?
I think just with how complex it is to balance a game like this and with how much new stuff they're adding and taking out, as it is with the carrier and mothership at least, there should be hopefully less rather than more, but there should be a period of time where the game is in a certain state of imbalance. Now, there's acceptable imbalance where it's like really freaking hard, but we can deal with it, and then there's just completely broken. I think Blizzard's done a pretty good job of avoiding completely broken, but as long as they're on top of that kind of imbalance period, then it should be okay. So it's out of my hands. So I feel bad answering this every time because I don't have anything like definitive to say. But what I would say is I'm just kind of praying to the Blizzard gods. I hope they care.
Gotcha. A couple more questions, and we'll move into the rest of the show. The person said, I get the biggest kick out of your Dustin Browder imitation. Any chance you could throw in a few DB lines for me?
Well, thank you for asking. But to be brutally honest, I'm not good on call with anything like actually impersonations in general. And my Dustin Browder impression is like more an impression of any of the generic guys that give presentations at like one of those conventions, So.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I just apply it to him because I saw it at BlizzCon, but I will have to decline. I'm sorry. Thank you though.
Gotcha. How about custom games? Do you have a favorite custom game to play? I
don't play any, and that dates back to Brood War actually. A lot of my friends would cool down and play Big Game Hunters or some stupid, Star Jeweled, whatever. I've never played custom games like that. UMS games, what we call them.
I know the person that asked this is probably crying right now.
Did you play the campaign? Because I know a lot of other professional players say, nope, didn't even touch that. It's all about competition.
I loved the cutscenes in Brood War, so I played the campaign hoping to see a lot like that. I think it was Tassadar versus Kerrigan and those cool videos like that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the game, in my opinion, made a mistake where they had a lot of like in-game graphical cutscenes. And I didn't think that was particularly intriguing. So I played up until I got frustrated, which was on the hardest difficulty, that level where you have to pick up because of the lava and keep moving forward.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I did that twice, and I was like, this is stupid. And then I never touched it again.
All right. And then finally, what are your top 3 games excluding anything StarCraft related?
Oh, my God. Like, of all time?
Ever? Anything?
How about just playing right now? Because all time, that's tough.
Well, I accept the challenge. I'll do both.
Okay. All right.
Of all time, I have to give love to Mario Kart 64.
Yes.
Mario Kart 64, way up there. I still think I'm the best battle mode player on the planet. My sister just this past year is now able to beat me in the time races and stuff, so that's kind of a sad moment. She's really good. No, nothing against her, but I was always the big brother. I was the best.
Do you play it on an original 64 or on the Wii?
I don't like the Wii, to be honest with you. I prefer the 64.
I'm not a fan either, but
Yeah,
just curious.
Yeah, I grew up with the 64. As weird as that controller is, I really like it. And then my next game would have to be GoldenEye 64.
Oh, yes.
That's where I think a lot of my competitive nature with games was fostered. Every single day after middle school and even into high school, we would go over to a friend's house and play, the four of us, 5-6 hours. And it was License to Kill. It would be pistols, machine guns, or I guess they were called automatics. I was the best with remote mines. I still think I'm the best on the planet with remote mines.
Oh, no.
Throwing it midair, mashing the two buttons and having them explode. I'd have fire coming out of walls and poking people down. It was good stuff. And then also proximity mines, because that was the strategy part too.
Yep.
And then the third game, my third game of all time. Gosh, now that we're like down to the last one, this has to be so special. I guess one of the most magical moments for me, and probably one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had, was Metal Gear Solid. When Psycho Mantis, you're fighting him, and the only way to beat him is to pull out your controller and put it in the other socket, because he was reading what your buttons were, because he's psychic. That was like, and I did that organically. I didn't look it up online. I didn't read a strategy guide. I didn't have someone show me. I just figured it out, and it was like the most euphoric, cool feeling ever. But pretty much that whole game, like the end fight, with Liquid, or what was his name? He was Liquid Snake.
I'm not sure. I'm afraid to say this, but I am not a fan of MGS.
That's okay. It's not for everyone.
I can't help you out either, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Arkham City had a point where like the game fake crashed. God of War 3, where when you're poking out Poseidon's eyes by clicking in the two triggers. Yeah, when just games do revolutionary things like that just make you, oh, that's awesome.
Zelda's got a lot of stuff too.
Yeah,
that does that kind of thing.
Where they actually throw it in your face that you're using a controller and kind of break that wall. Well, sweet. Anything right now you're playing that's just kind of blowing your mind besides StarCraft?
I beat what was it called? Deus Ex 3, and the gameplay for it was gorgeous and really fun and phenomenal. The ending's terrible. I still have yet to play Dead Space 2, and I have Arkham City, or what was it called?
It's Arkham City. I just fired that up myself. I'm trying to get through it.
It's still in the saran wrap and shit. It's terrible. But I have to play that. I've been playing Skyrim, but it's kind of like I played every day during Christmas break, and then since then I've been playing every other week, just because it feels so daunting. Like anytime I play that, I feel like I have to sit down for a 10-hour like marathon.
Yeah.
And then what else? I'm really excited about Mass Effect 3. I played the first two, and I actually loved them.
Nice.
I know Kyle's shaking his seat right now. He freaking loves that game.
That's like in 5 days or something like that, isn't it?
It's very soon.
March
is that
6th,
next week?
I think?
Kyle? No, okay,
No,
a couple weeks.
It's not for a bit, but
It's March.
Reckoning was today.
Oh yeah, okay, Reckoning, yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, no, today's Wednesday, so that would have been yesterday. Anyways, back on topic. Well, sweet. A big thanks to everyone who asked questions. We got a lot of questions from listeners on our forums and from the Team Liquid forums as well. So before we move into the rest of the show, Kyle, you wanted to bring up real quick the scroll wheel instead of clicking?
Yeah, someone found out that if you remap your buttons to making your scroll wheel do the clicking, each little scroll click is now a official click of your mouse. So things get a little silly, but you can basically instantly spawn infested Terrans. You can warp in at ridiculous speeds, but most scary of all, of course, is scrolling while sniping as a ghost.
Yeah, rapid snipes. Yeah, I watched this video too. It's insane, and I'm surprised no one's discovered this earlier, because this is something I know you can do with pretty much every MMO ever. I know when I played WoW, I had my auto fire on my scroll wheel, and you just scroll it as you're hitting the rest of your hotkeys so that you never miss any white damage.
Yeah. That makes no sense to me at all, but yeah, I'll pretend to understand.
Yeah.
We talked about this on Inside the Game. The short of it, I would say, is if you have to use a third-party program, I'm not for it.
Yeah.
And then also the racial imbalance. So Terran has really quick snipe. Zerg has infested Terrans being deployed. Protoss has nothing. that's like that, I would say. But also, I would make the ethical argumentation, which is, do we really need things that make it easier for people to get around the speed of the game, right? Because you could feasibly snipe just that fast by clicking, and someone who can click that fast should be rewarded for that, in my opinion. Whereas if we attach it to the wheel, everyone becomes select, and now there's machine gun sniping going on.
Yeah.
But that being said, if it were in a tournament or allowed to be in a tournament, I wouldn't for one instant get up and propose, I wouldn't declare this tournament a farce and throw a table or something like that. I'd be okay with it.
Well, technically, since it's a third-party software, it's a hack, and Blizzard will probably do something about it, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm with it. I think it's quite unethical as well. So, well, anyways, let's talk about, let's get into some more current topics. It's time for this week's status report.
Can we get a status report?
The Season 5 lockout is now upon us, for those of you who may not have noticed. So Season 5 drew to a close yesterday, locking us all into whichever league we're currently in. And for those of you listening who, for whatever reason, are not yet familiar with how this works, you can still move up and down your ladder, but you cannot be promoted or demoted out of your league. Yeah. So go enjoy. You can still use up your bonus pool as always, though, and move up and down within the league that you're locked into. So
Are you a fan of the 2 months, or is that too short for you?
I liked it when it was a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 months at its longest or something like that, and I think I prefer that. I don't really have a big-ass backup answer as to why, but it just felt more right.
I feel, as someone who plays it casually, that it almost feels like every time I turn around, the season's ending. So I would agree with you. It's seems like it's too short.
I think more important than that to me is that they fixed the Grandmaster League. Like, every time I say this, there's always a bunch of my buddies who are like, it doesn't matter, right? Grandmaster doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't, but it's a nice little heirloom for the people that are of that level, and it kind of sucks when it gets announced and it's really just the first 100 Master League players to play. And that doesn't seem right to me. It should be really hard to get in. It should be really hard to stay in. I think that's the next part. There should be more people getting dumped in and out of there. And in my opinion, that's what the Grandmaster League should look like. But right now it doesn't. Right now it's just kind of like, it's not that big of a deal to be number one Grandmaster. It's just, and it should be, in my opinion. That should be a damn big deal.
No, absolutely. Well, when you get into esports, one of the first things you do is find that Grandmaster button and go, wow, look at all the, well, wait, this doesn't make sense. Who are these people?
Yeah, so there's like one or two names you recognize, and the rest is just like, okay, I guess my neighbor's Grandmaster.
Yep.
Anyways, link I wanted to direct everyone to. RTS Guru gave us some awesome StarCraft 2 map analysis. This is an editorial that was posted on rtsguru.com this past Thursday. Anna Ovison breaks down map design in StarCraft 2. I'm not going to go read the article word by word, but I just wanted to point everyone to it. You can, of course, see that in our show notes on the StarCast.com. Also, I guess, Kyle, you pointed me to this. One of the members of our competitive clan made a StarCast channel or something.
Yeah, they made a StarCast TV. It's tv.teamcvo.com, our competitive group. Basically, it's streaming the show right now, or it's also showing what our Masters players are up to. So you can just hang out there, see all the streams that are going on in the StarCast community.
Oh, very neat. That's cool. I didn't know that. Well, thank you, Harp. That's awesome. And I wanted to announce our local Barcraft. I was, somewhat involved with it last time. Anyway, the Tampa Barcraft has officially been announced. It's going to be, once again, at the Peabody's Billiards and Games up in Tampa, Florida. It's going to be Sunday, March 25th. The time is to be announced, and for more info, you can search for Tampa StarCraft on Facebook for up-to-date information on the Barcraft. They will be having the first ever Tampa-based StarCraft 2 tournament. They're going to have a Bronze to Platinum division and a Diamond to Grand Masters division. The winners of each round of each division will win a StarCast t-shirt, and apparently they're going to have VIP seats at the Tampa Barcraft. I have no idea what that means. But sign-ups start tonight after our show, apparently, on the Tampa StarCraft Facebook. There's also a link to that in the show notes, so go check that out. And go support Charlie. He puts a lot of work into getting this Barcraft together. And I wouldn't have an interesting place to go watch the MLG finals without it, unless, of course, we get another MLG Orlando. So, although, turns out I think I'm going to make it to Columbus. I'm quite excited.
It's so sad. I live in Chicago, a huge city, and you know what? Darn the Capone days, because apparently no bar in this city is willing to take a chance anymore. The liquor license is ridiculously expensive in the city of Chicago. So, yeah, no one takes a chance on Barcraft. It's real sad.
Didn't you go to one for Providence, though?
That was Wings, and they didn't serve alcohol. Or there's BYOB, but it's the city, you know?
Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of bar crafting.
Definitely been to only one Barcraft, and it was one of the most amazing StarCraft nights I've ever had, so everyone should definitely give it a shot. It's pretty damn cool.
Was that the KO Bistro?
Yeah, Chow Bistro up in Seattle. They threw a gathering together for when I was up there, and it was really cool.
Nice. I think I remember hearing about that. I think a couple of our listeners went. I know Discarax went. Yeah, I remember him mentioning, iNcontroL is there. So that's sweet. Anyways, all the stuff we talked about in this week's status report, once again, can be seen in the show notes. We're going to talk about This Week in Esports on ION Esports now.
From StarCast, this is ION Esports.
So IEM Sao Paulo starts today. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. This snuck up on me completely. I was at work and threw up Reddit, and it's just like, go watch IEM right now. I was like, oh, all right, so I will. So apparently it's taking place in Brazil, and well, I was lucky enough to get to watch a Muslim play Feast at work today, but I'm not going to lie, I was rooting for Muslim, so I was kind of ticked. One of the few games I got to watch today. Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see the rest of the group, so that's awesome to hear. I was actually going to ask you if you knew what happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And then from Group A, I believe Supernova and Dark Force moved on. So that's very...
Well, that's awesome for South America. There's been quite a few of the countries that have had huge esports following, but they just can't get... I mean, Australia, they love esports, but they just can't get one in their country.
I was about to say, yeah, that's probably the people we hear from the most that are most vocal about. For the love of God, bring something to our country.
Australians are amazing. They're amazing esports fans. It's just, you have to think about all the logistics of not only a league traveling to Australia and then putting in the infrastructure, but then the players. Would EG spend $3,000 to send a player to a tournament there when the prize pool is $5,000 or $6,000? Probably not.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, having spoken with IdrA, one of the reasons why there's only one Korean outside of Violet that went to IEM, and that's Supernova, is because Korea to Brazil is a 30-hour travel, and that's just so expensive and so tiring and time-consuming that there's no way in hell they go. So that's the way it works.
Lose more than a day traveling. Dear God.
We actually received this question from one of the listeners, but is there any country you think IEMcontroL that is about to have sort of an esports revolution?
I really feel like some of these European countries have a huge fan base. Germany in particular. It's kind of weird to say revolution because I think they've kind of already got it there. But then another cool answer that I'd want to give is Korea. And hold on, let me. that sounds weird, but an esports revolution in StarCraft 2. It's not the biggest game there. It's not doing as well as we all thought it would. But when those Brood War players make the shift to StarCraft 2 and Brood War finally really dies for real, I feel like there's a chance for them to make that transition, and that'll be good for everyone.
Yeah, I know we saw that happening this past week with the GSL Code A, and it was kind of awkward. I mean, a lot of these players are big names, but to see them, getting stuck on mutas and not quite knowing where to go after that. And those sort of things.
Yeah.
Kyle, you pointed this out to me. That Sloan Sports Conference are having an esports panel. You want to speak a little bit on this?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty big deal. The Sloan Sports Conference is just a general sort of all the sports in the world, but they're having an esports panel, and actually, one of the EG guys is going to it.
Yeah, the panel attendees currently announced is Day 9, Mike Morheim, Sundance, Steve Giovanni, and EG's CEO, Alex Garfield. there been any talk about this in the house in control?
Well, Alex doesn't actually. He's in California. That's where he lives. But he's really excited about it. He's been tweeting a lot about it. It's an amazingly stacked panel. Like if you follow esports at all, that is the panel to talk to or listen to, right now. So for him to be on that short list of people that are really influential, in the community, it's a pretty big win for EG. We're really happy about it, and really happy for Alex because he's actually a super behind the scenes kind of guy, and that's not necessarily by design. I think he's one of the more interesting people out there, but for whatever reason, people they want to hear from everybody else. So it's kind of nice that he's getting a shot too.
Yeah, I'm excited because Mike Morheim is going, and I can't really think of a time where he's been very vocal about esports specifically. Obviously, you go to BlizzCon, he's very vocal about the games that his company creates, but I haven't really heard him get too personal on the subject of esports.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for me, I think a character like Mike Morheim is kind of ruined for me because I don't think I could take too much of what he says too terribly serious. He answers very directly to the board of people that pay all the bills for everyone, and he's never going to step on any toes ever with anyone. So I could actually probably give the Mike Morheim speech / answers on that panel. Like, what do you think about esports? It's just doing such great, big things for StarCraft 2 and stuff. And he'll be like, yeah, it's wonderful. Seeing so many competitive people taking it so serious. It's just it makes it validating. It validates all the hard work we do. Right down from the design level to the esports group that we have, and stay tuned. Blizzard's got some pretty exciting ideas floating around. They're not going to ask. You
did it for the fan. That guy at that was. Yeah, no, that's absolutely 100% what I hear him saying. But if you go to the site, it is the most ESPN kind of, as video gamers we expect exciting, moving, efficient sites. This thing is very outdated. Which panel are you most excited for? A poll here on their website doesn't say a thing about the esports table. Baseball analytics is currently the top most voted. So,
God, yeah.
There's nothing I enjoy more than analyzing
it's in
baseball.
Texas. Remember, guys, it's in Texas, so
there you go.
Most of the people are going to be, I would imagine, from the Texas area.
It's still
what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's another kind of like that basketball player who's like, I'm gonna be in esports a year ago now. It's another kind of exciting, making that bridge into real sports, but it's always interesting to see what the real world, quote unquote, community thinks of esports when they get their hands on it.
Yeah.
By the way, Jeff, the only thing that could have made your reaction better is if you had a Michael Morheim voice.
I don't even know what his voice sounds like. Yeah.
He's an incredibly soft-spoken man. I remember being surprised when I went to BlizzCon. Anyways, in other news, IPL Team Arena Challenge 2 is also currently going on. You actually, I watched you playing it just last night, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had a rough week of any StarCrafting, watching or playing because my computer finally died on me this past week. So while I was working on it last night, I did get it up for a short amount of time, and I apparently you were doing quite well, and of course I tuned in right as you lost, which sucked. I was like, oh sweet, I get to watch and we'll have something to talk about tomorrow, and then I was like, crap. So
I was happy. That's the kind of results I'm talking about. Like to get a couple of wins against a prestigious team like Quantic is really nice. And even the way I lost, I was kind of sad because it was with an all-in, so there is no, like I was talking about, where we kind of scrap it out and fight it out. Unless I do damage with the all-in, then I'm pretty much just dead, and that's what happened. So I got tilted into it. Like he eBay blocked my expansion, and I always get a Zealot out specifically for that. And the one time I don't, of course, he blocks me. So I was like, okay, I'll all in, and then he scans as the Warp Prism's leaving, and that was the most awkward flight that Warp Prism's ever taken. So I was like, well, he obviously knows exactly what I'm doing, so.
Those are not happy Zealots. They're just like, we're going down, boys. We're going down. Yeah. But EG did move on nonetheless, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, we won.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I didn't catch the end either, but That's great. So when does EG play next?
It's interesting. This is all air times. We've actually already played the next Clan War, so I don't know. You'll have to check the IPL schedules, but we're ahead of that for sure.
Cool. Awesome. And then we've got the coming up, the EG's Masters Cup Series League. I guess there's going to be a $10,000 prize. There's 12 teams. There will be 6 from last season. And then there'll be 5 additional teams to invite, and then 1 open slot for the community team.
File won the vote.
Yes, that was okay. And then I guess 2v2 has been removed.
Yeah, they're going to go to the all-kill format as we see in the IPL.
Okay, very cool.
I think a lot of the response from the last one, because of course it has EG's Master Cup in the name, a lot of people were very accusatory, upset about it because EG didn't fare so well in their own tournament. I'm a little surprised to see this tournament come around again because of all that just weird backlash.
It gives great love to the sponsors, and while there was backlash, it was a teardrop in a bucket of awesome, So, definitely anytime. I mean, EG's in a place where they can actually host their own league and put up a $10,000 prize pool. Not a lot of other teams are doing that, so it's kind of natural to look at it and be like, oh, they took out 2 vs 2 because of Strife Pro and Axlab leaving, and then last season, what were they saying? They said 2 vs 2 was there because of Strife Pro and Axlab, so it's actually damned if you do, damned if you don't. But as far as we're concerned, it's just another great way for us to further the EG brand, and guess what? That's what we do. I mean, look at the broadcasters. IDrA, myself, the Muslim. There's going to be like the one idiot who doesn't get it just by looking at it and be like, wait a second. Those are all EG guys. Like, yeah, it is. It's like it's almost like we're doing this to profit for ourselves too. It's weird. So we're putting on the league. We're happy about it. And Incredible Miracle is in there. I think Startail was announced. It's just insanely stacked. So it's going to be tough.
Awesome.
I heard you're going to be doing a little bit of guest casting as well.
Yeah, I'm casting that, and then I was pleased to tease, as is my usual thing, that I actually have lined up a couple more casting gigs outside of this. Do I accept this video thing on Skype? Is that? I guess so.
What?
I just got a video invite from Kyle Ferguson on the Skype call. Never mind.
Oh, I didn't do anything. Nope. I didn't press any buttons. Yeah.
Thank you. So that'll be announced pretty soon, actually. I'll be working with a couple pretty cool organizations and doing some casting, which the question always gets asked, oh, you're casting. Have you given up on being a programmer? No, I haven't. So that's why they're all one-offs. I'm not doing it for any NASL season or something like that.
Yeah, that's a quick connection to make. Oh, you're casting. Oh, well, you must be quitting.
Yeah.
Well, people love drama. It was a lot of fun getting to see you cast in the Home Story Cup.
Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun.
And, of course, watching, all the shenanigans that happened there. I'm sure that house was madness.
It was, yeah.
Jeff, after your experiences with the NASL and a player in larger tournaments, what sort of league or format do you think is going to be the most successful in the future?
It depends on how you gauge success, but it's hard to get away from that MLG format without respecting it. I really like the blend between online and offline play. That's something, that's them going more towards the IPL format, which was always last year. They had one online qualifier, and then there's an offline, final, basically. The thing I guess I like about MLG's format, at least what was announced already, is that it seems to be a lot more games, in my opinion. So double elimination, but there's 4 arenas, there's 4 championships, as they call them. So there's 8 chances for me to play for an MLG fan base, If I fail in the online qualifier for the arena, I can still get sent to the open bracket for the championship itself. So I really like how much chances you have at redemption, basically, and that's what I'm going for.
Nice. Also, this past week we got a new show from GOM TV. GSL Off the Record started, and I was a little confused at first, and then I watched it, and I have to say it was pretty damn entertaining. I was laughing my ass off. Did you get a chance to watch this at all, Jeff?
1 second. I actually have a correction. My manager's watching this interview. So the Masters Cup will not be all kill format like IPL. It's going to be 4 best of 3s and then an ace match. So I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, so that's actually cool too. And you know what? What I meant to say is that's actually even cooler. That's the best format I've ever heard of. So
Hype it, go.
yeah, no, I apologize. As far as the GSL show, I did not catch it. It's not like I'm avoiding it and refusing to watch it. I just didn't watch it. So I heard it's good. I mean, everyone seems. I mean, the cool thing about this is it should bring us closer to the Korean players.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's about damn time, in the words of Tychus. So, like, if I can get to know their personalities a little bit more, and if I can see them interacting a little bit more, then that's all the better. I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Well, all you really missed was DRG owning fans with chopsticks, which was
Nice.
awesome to watch.
Yeah, they have a sort of, they grab fans out of the chat room and get them to play against DRG, but he has to have some sort of handicap. So the first one was rubber gloves, and these were more like dish-doing gloves, but all the same. And then he had to wear a cast and play with chopsticks.
Wow.
It was a StarCraft variety show, I think. I kind of enjoyed it. It's the closest thing to like the Conan O'Brien of StarCraft that I've seen so far.
There you go.
Also, last 2 weeks seems like we've had so much roster change to talk about, and that it hasn't ended quite yet. This week, Nada left Team OGS. And there's a quote from the Team Liquid post. It said, on February 7th, Team OGS has announced that Nada has left the team after his contract expired on January 31st. As such, starting from February, Nada will be teamless. The reason Nada did not renew his contract with OGS is because he wanted new challenges and change. On that subject, Nada has stated that I wanted to give myself new challenges. So that's just one more small roster change for the beginning of this year.
Lots of people think he's going to follow MC.
Yeah.
SK announced that they're not going to take him, from what I understand.
Oh, really? Okay. I missed that. And then also coming up soon is the IPL 4 qualifier, which is going to start on February 11th. That'll be the first qualifier, and I believe the second one is on February 18th. They're doing it through Playhem. There's a link to that in the show notes if for whatever reason you're trying to qualify and don't know what that link is. So looking forward to that. Kyle, did you watch any games this week? I know I was saying I had a bit of an issue, but anything interesting you saw this week?
Not too much beyond the Brood War players making their way into StarCraft 2. Exciting to see. The casters were, of course, very excited. I'm not following Brood War too much, was unfamiliar with the names, so I'm afraid they have escaped my mind. But I'm looking forward to that scene integrating in, because we continue to hear about fabulous Brood War players.
Sweet. Before we move on to the final part of the show and take some questions from the chat room, we have a new segment from King Octavious, who also, I believe, writes for myeg.net, and who has a StarCraft 2 book coming out soon. So let's play that for you guys, and we'll see you on the other side. This is King Octavious's Pro Player Spotlight.
Hi StarCast, this is King Octavious with my first edition of Pro Player Spotlight, a previously abandoned segment where we discuss the game's most important pro players. Sorry Jeb for stealing your title. This week we'll talk about a player who's been constantly improving in SC2, and who I think is going to have some of the most success among all players in 2012. That player is MMA, the Terran from Team Slayers. MMA, who used to be known as Job, J-J-O-B, saw his first major professional SC2 experience in the GSL's Team League, even winning the league's Most Valuable Player award twice. His first major breakthrough, however, came at MLG Columbus 2011, where he went undefeated to come out champion. Then just 2 weeks afterward, MMA made it to the grand finals of the GSL Super Tournament, but was swept by Polt. For the sake of time, I'll have to skip the story of MMA's results following, and just give you a rundown of his performance, but notice all his run-ins with MVP, the player often considered to be the best in the world. MLG Anaheim, second place, losing to MVP. GeForce Pro-Am Finals, champion, defeating MVP. GSL October Codes Finals, champion, defeating MVP. MLG Korean Invitational, second place, losing to MVP. GSL Blizzard Cup, champion, sweeping Dongray Gu. and defeating MVP in the bracket, and finally IEM Kiev, champion, defeating Damaga. As for his playstyle, MMA is an extremely fun Terran player to watch, as he makes use of constant and multi-pronged drop harassment to hit his opponent's production, primarily using bio-heavy armies. One of the scariest drops he ever executed was against MVP in the Codes Finals, where he dropped nearly his entire army in MVP's main, and proceeded to destroy his base with little impedance, using nukes to keep MVP from defending. With incredible speed and multitasking, and the ability to hang on even ground with MVP, MMA may be on the verge of becoming the best StarCraft 2 player in the world. Additionally, I was talking with some of my esports friends about this, and he's got to be one of the top 2 or 3 handsomest StarCraft 2 players of them all. I'm King Octavious, and here's hoping I can end each of these segments on an equally awkward note.
Thank you for that, King Octavious. I look forward to more of those and being able to hear it. We broke up like crazy on the live stream there. I guess Jeff didn't. I guess you didn't mute your mic or getting feedback.
Oh, that was the fan?
It's no worries.
Okay, that's what happened.
It's nothing we can't fix in post. Unfortunately, the live audience will just have to live. I think they'll be okay.
That was totally my fault.
No worries. Anyways, let's get into the final segment of the show, formerly known as emails. Now we're calling it feedback.
Incoming transmission.
Patching you through. The Yamato is loaded, and so am I.
Welcome to feedback. This is where we take your calls, your questions, and your emails. So chat room, it is time for you to man up. You have any questions for IEMcontroL? Or Kyle and I. I really doubt you have a question for Kyle and I on this particular episode. So we're just going to wait for that in 5-second stream lag. And of course, the first question is about horses.
What about him?
Did you never hear the IEMcontroL horse rant?
No, I've heard it, but... Okay,
just making sure. Oh god, it's going by so fast now, it's like the Matrix. Scrolling up so it stops. IEMcontroL, what upgrades do you recommend for Terrans to... Oh god, it's moving like crazy. Do you recommend for Terrans to get first against a Stalker Zealot build?
I just think you should always go +1 attack as Terran. I don't see any Terrans getting armor in TVP first.
Gotcha. How about any new news on the meet and greet in Phoenix?
That's a great question. To be honest, we've just kind of been busy with kind of getting the year started off, but that's definitely something that's long overdue, right? What's the point in having our entire team in Phoenix if we're not interacting at least sometimes with the fantastic Phoenix community? So I know Cody's listening right now. Cody's our player manager, so hopefully he's hearing this and it jives with him. We should do a bar craft. We should do a meetup at some point in time, and I'll just kind of be the voice to champion that and make sure it happens.
Awesome.
So soon, I guess, is the answer.
Gotcha. The Enigmatic just wants to buy you a beer at MLG. Can he?
Yeah, as long as I'm celebrating a win or officially eliminated from the tournament. It would look really bad if I was, drinking a beer or hanging out before either of those things happen.
This is an awesome image of you in the pit with IdrA. Just got a still on. You just got a beer.
Thank you for that offer, by the way.
Do you think there might ever be a specific place in the West, like Seoul, where a lot of teams and players will be based? Would that even be good for the community?
Would it be good? Yes. Do I think it'll happen? No, just because real estate's really expensive, so a lot of teams can't afford it, and the ones that can have other things going into why they're where they are, right? So EG's in Phoenix, not because we love scorching hot weather and lead curtains, but because real estate's fairly inexpensive, but also our co-owner Scott has a wonderful TriCaster studio here, so a lot of content we can produce comes out of that, and that's why we're in Phoenix. So I don't know. I'd hope so, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to stay in Korea for a while?
Yeah, I've had plans for a while to do that, and I keep I've stopped saying dates because it's out of my hands. Like I'm sending myself, so it's no problem to say that I will go. The problem is I'm trying to make it the most cost beneficial trip I will take, which means I'm working with Artosis and the GSL to work out something kind of cool. And now that I've said that much, I guess I'll just say it. I've been kind of secret about it, but I'm going to probably cast some GSL, and I would like to have that opportunity, but I'm not going to. It doesn't work where I go, okay, I'll be there in March, and they're like, oh, we'll figure it out. Nope, they have to tell me when they can do it and when it can all work out. So I'm kind of waiting to hear back on that. So I want to go and train and stay in Korea for a while, but at the same time, if I could spend a couple of the nights casting the GSL, I think that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be incredible. Trev3V1001 says it's his birthday, and you would make his birthday if you could recommend some Terran upgrades against Stalker Zealot builds.
Okay. Concussive Shell, Stim, Combat Shield, +1 attack.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
You're welcome.
You can put a bow on. For someone who has been somewhat absent in the pro scene and has reverted to casting as a replacement, and hearing you say that you are definitely still a pro gamer, what are your opinions on Artosis coming back as well?
Did he say he's coming back?
Chat room, did he say he was coming back, or is this a hypothetical?
Oh, yeah. I would have to imagine it's hypothetical.
I think it is, too. This would be all over the place, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what we're getting at. He's not going to come back. I don't think, like, if you think about it, everyone's had a 1.5 year leap on him. Does he play the game? Yes, regularly, and he plays it really well. I mean, obviously on his stream, but there's a huge difference between playing really well and making it as a professional player. So I don't know. I guess the other thing to take into account here too is a team would be happy to have him on their roster just because of how much fame he brings them, right? So I think at least in spirit he could come back, but I would never see Artosis doing well in a tournament or something like that. And that's no diss to him. It's just that, in my opinion, he's the best commentator on the planet. So why would he ever think about leaving that?
Yeah. How about a more personal note? How long had you planned on marrying Anna before you proposed?
Since not the day I met her, but pretty much, I would say like halfway into our relationship. So I dated her for 5 years, and in that first year, we actually we separated at one point, and I remember very much so sitting across from my grandmother, and she's like, "Well, are you okay? I'm so sorry." And I said, "It's okay." I said, "I'm gonna marry her, and she's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, someday I'm gonna marry her," and I was right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
You do the Rumble and the Bronze. What's one thing you wish Bronze players could do better?
Oh, God. One thing.
That's a loaded question.
In my opinion, you could get carried through Bronze, Silver, and probably Gold by just... I guess it's not one thing, so I'll have to do the cop-out answer. It is bringing in money and then spending money. So if they could continuously make harvesters and then spend their money to the best of their ability, they should plateau at Gold or Platinum. I really feel like it's very simple stuff like that that really holds people back in Bronze and Silver.
Gotcha. Let's see. Again, the wall of text. Kyle James 92 asks, he said that there's been a lot of hype around Bling recently. What do you think of his play from what you've seen?
I think he's phenomenal. He's definitely a world-class Protoss, one of the best non-Koreans. He definitely has his strong matchups and his weak one. But I watch his stream every time it's on, and I feel like he plays he just plays the fundamentals really, really well. Nothing about his play really explodes to me and like this guy's going to change the way everyone should play the game, but he plays with an aggression and a pretty strong mental game that has me thinking that he'll go pretty far. And I love his story. I love that Dignitas had like a tryout tournament, and he is the product of that. Who the hell would have thought you could hold an open, to the community British tournament, and a guy of Bling's caliber would be produced by that.
What are some strong Protoss build orders that will help you to improve your mechanics and propel you through the ranks and leagues of SC2. And this is from Joss SC2 in the chat room.
PVT, 1-gate expand into anything. PVZ, Forge Fast expansion, and the PvP, probably 12-gate Robo into 3-gate, or Blink Stalker and then Robo. All three of those builds are the generic builds that you'll most commonly see, and I really feel like people should work on those.
We'll take this here as our last question, but it's one we get a lot. What is the best way for someone who wants to become a pro player to break into the scene? You mentioned making yourself, of course, available and having to be that star personality. But what truly, one tournament should you participate in?
MLG. What has carried over from Brood War and is essentially very much so true for us StarCraft 2 players is even though you're truly never offline, the results that you produce from being offline or at a tournament in person are 10 times more important than they are online. So you can be highly ranked in the ladder, you can do pretty good in a Playhem, but unless you pull a great result at an MLG or IPL or something like that, it doesn't really matter. They'll always hold that against you. They'll be like, oh, he's great online, but he's terrible offline. He must hack or he has nerve issues. That's the way people talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question we need to ask you anyway. So how can we support you better, catch your stream, and know your sponsors?
For me, it's pretty simple. If people can help me grow my stream, so retweeting when I tweet it, telling friends about it, watching the VODs, just sharing it, that kind of stuff, that is a direct contribution to me. Not only do I make money off of that, but you help grow my viewer base, which is what I use to leverage myself all across the scene. It's very important that someone is watched and their fans care about them. And the ways you can do that is follow me on Twitter. It's watching my stream, liking my Facebook fan page. Believe me, I understand nothing about the way a Facebook fan page works, but I do know that it matters. So those are the ways to do it. And going beyond myself, if you have another favorite pro gamer or team or something like that, pursue the ways to do those things, because it's 5 minutes of work on your end. Maybe you never use Twitter. Maybe you don't even like to watch streams, but if you leave a stream on in the background while you're doing homework or something like that, you are helping that player out, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to make this community grow.
Great. Make sure you go out and do that, everyone. So what is your Twitter handle so people can follow you?
It's EGiNcontroL on Twitter, and usually I tweet about StarCraft-related stuff, but a lot of times you'll hear about my dog and funny stuff and what we do throughout the day. I tweet about Warhammer usually around the weekend when I'm putting it together, that kind of stuff. Nice.
So before we end the show, is there anything else at all you would like to promote?
Just a big shout out to my team, Evil Geniuses, our sponsors, Intel, SteelSeries, Kingston HyperX, Monster Energy, Beyond Gaming, and Sapphire. My amazing team and support. I know that the second I made a mistake about the Masters Cup, Cody, my player's manager, is watching this interview. So that's really cool to me. A big part of what makes EG so special is that we all kind of got each other's back, and for him to be supportive like that is really cool. Scott, Alex, appreciate them. My teammates, of course, we're cheering on DeMuslim. He's at IEM Brazil right now, so please tune in. He took second in his group, which means he has playoffs on Saturday. Hope he's going to do awesome there. And then thank you guys. It's so awesome to see this. I've never actually, I'll have to admit it, I'm terribly sorry. I've never watched a StarCast interview. And your guys' production value, the questions you ask, the format, it's really, really freaking good. So I wish you guys all the best, and if there's any way I can help you, let me know.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to come on our show.
Yeah, thank you guys.
It's nice having you here. Hopefully we'll get to see you at MLG Columbus. I think we're all going to be there. It's very rare that we all get together in one area.
So. I will be there, man. Introduce yourselves. I'd love to meet you.
Will do.
In person.
Yeah. We'll have to bring you a shirt, too.
Sure.
Anyways, thanks to everyone this past week who left us a 5-star review in iTunes. Thanks to Dr. Macro. Thanks to Andre Martinez and PJD DFI moo, lots of O's on that one. If you want more StarCast, you can always go to the StarCast.com. You can catch StarCast live Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/StarCast Show. And check out our amazing StarCraft 2 community at the StarCast.com/forum. You can email the show at starcastshow@gmail.com or call the StarCast line at 941-882-0281. That's where we get all of our strategies, random emails, and questions for guests like Jeff. So keep your calls short, 90-second limit, and to the point. You can download the StarCast Android app for your Android mobile device, and you can follow us on Twitter. The show's Twitter is at the StarCast. My personal one is at Garrett Art. Kyle's is at Kyle Ferguson. You can follow our producer at Patrick Jester, and we thank him very much for all of his hard work. He is the very, very quiet man sitting behind the curtain right now, switching our cameras, making the stream look nice, and handling that overlay. And thank you to our editor, Captain Newbing, for the podcast version, for all of you listening to the audio-only version right now. And also, finally, check out the CBO YouTube channel. That's our competitive clan at youtube.com/teamcbo. And Monday nights, make sure you once again go to twitch.tv/StarCast Show for the Monday Night Madness. There is, I believe they're going to be switching off from now on. They're either going to have King of the Hill or they're going to have single elimination tournaments. They usually last 3 to 4 hours, so make sure you go check that out. We'll keep you up to date on the MLG StarCast meetup in the works. And Kyle, when you're not doing StarCast, where can people find you?
Well, first of all, I need to correct you. You said Thursdays, and not Thursdays anymore. You catch the show live on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry. Yes, we don't want to compete with State of the Game.
But at any rate, you can catch me on Biggest Fan, where we follow the fad that's driving you mad. This week, Superstitions, because some movie about an old lady came out and Brocket's afraid of old ladies. So we're doing Superstitions this week.
It's an understandable phobia.
Also,
Nothing. I was going to be a smart ass. Continue.
Oh, well, okay. If you're sure. All right. Opportunity's passing. Okay, done. And also keep an eye on our forums, for we will be planning some sort of MLG StarCast meetup, regardless of if Garrett's there or not.
Oh, I'm coming. I just need to get my tickets. Anyways, don't forget to check out our sponsors, Dogcast Systems, for the best gaming computers you'll find anywhere. Again, the code is StarCast or Biscuit. You'll get double memory on your next rig. DogcastSystems.com. And I completely forgot to thank an anonymous listener who sent me a good chunk of change to put towards a new computer because my computer died this week. Thank you very, very much. I was not asking for money, but I appreciate it nonetheless. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. Once again, don't forget we are going to have Axelov on, so make sure you tune in for that and go over to the starcast.com/forum to post some questions for him. Thank you again, Jeff, for coming on. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Later.
Hello StarCast, this is Internet Dave bringing you this week's Achievement of the Week. This week I am covering the achievement, Firefighter. The goal of this achievement is to repair 8 Terran structures that are on fire in a melee game. And as we know, melee game, which means you can do it with a friend and do it the cheap way, and we're not going to get into that because it's a really easy way to get achievements without having to be on the ladder. Anyway, the goal here, repair the 8 buildings. So you actually need to have your opponents attack this. I tried this on the ladder. I tried to attack my own buildings, set them on fire, and then pull back. That doesn't work. You actually need to have your opponent attack the buildings for you, which can be a little bit difficult. It needs you to be willing to sacrifice buildings, get them close to being low on health, and then repair them. It just basically shows, you know how to repair with SCVs, which is a pretty important skill to have, if you want to save a burning structure and basically just keep your buildings alive. Anyway, that is all there is for the achievement of the week this week. Just go repair your buildings. It's that simple. Nothing hard to it. Anyway, I just want to say, I'm out of combat achievements. Like, I've gone through every single one, and I think I know why. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my 1-year anniversary for doing segments on StarCast. My first one was on number 41, called The New Missile, a long time ago, really simple. But, you know what, it's a great memory that I have, and since, Garrett and Kyle did forget a few episodes, that's why it's, not exactly 52 weeks, but everything. Anyway, just to let you know, it's been a 1-year anniversary, and I love you all for all the support I've given, but since I'm out of achievements, I have a new idea. So, since I don't have any achievements left to tell you, here's my new plan. I want everybody to try what I'm going to call the Internet Dave Achievements of the Week. These are my personal ideas that are not already in the achievement list that I want you guys to try and do on the ladder and see if you can pull it off. First one, I'm going to call it the Infested Marine. The goal here, build a Marine while playing a Zerg. Anyway, go ahead and post this in the forums that I'm going to make after this episode airs, and send them to my email. It's internet_dave16@yahoo.com. I will see you all in 1 week. Good luck.
Hey StarCast, Sandman's here with the Modspot special announcement. I actually have a mod I wanted to review this week, but then I came up with this new idea. Okay, so basically, what I've been doing for a while now is I've been saying, okay, here's a mod that's already been made, you should go play it. But what if we got some of our listeners to actually make mods? See, what I have done is I've gotten Aphotic, the guy who made Magecraft, and he's working with me to make tutorial videos to teach people how to make mods. Basically, what I want to see is people getting in there with the mod making system and trying it out for themselves and coming up with some new material for me to check out. So what I want you to do, as listeners, is come up with the most original idea you possibly can, even if it's like a super crazy tower defense thing that changes the meaning of tower defense forever and ever, because Garrett won't play it otherwise. But send it in to me at modspot@yahoo.com. I will check it out, and if it suits my standards, I will absolutely share it on the show. I might even make a YouTube video about it, because that's what my channel is all about, is getting the unknown people out there in the modding community. So please, for the love of God, give me some really good material. But anyway, until next time, this has been Sandman. Here's hoping I didn't put you to sleep.